Okay, I'm sorry. So innovative has to do with teaching or learning, or it explains right there, objectives, meaningful, engaging, real world opportunities.
Doing something different, doing something new. I'm sorry, I'm such a mouth. Okay, it's the innovative means you're not going to just try to do it the same old way we always have. You found something you think will be new and be different. Now, obviously, once we have done these grants for years and years, it becomes harder and harder to find innovative. So, you know, if what you need is an Elmo and whatever, that stuff is still innovative. But we're really looking for if you can go a little bit further, find something a little bit different. And the reason we want that is because then when you find great things that really work in your classroom, we like to share them with the other schools. We like to say, hey, look what she did over here. It's working. Do y'all want to try that? So that's the whole reason we do this, is to help teachers out. Okay, so that's innovative and supplemental.
And supplemental has to do with books, and not just books, but when seating started, you know, the innovative seating where you could rock or it was up high or whatever, we questioned, do we really want to fund things like that? Well, we started getting and reading research that showed that it really was making a difference in students' lives and learning. And then we started observing, going to the classroom and observing and listening to what teachers were saying. And we realized supplemental is just as important. I mean, I think we did picnic tables last year and all kinds of different things that really added to a child's learning.
If you are a single person doing this, just one, it's a $2,500 limit. If you get with someone else or with your department, it's a $7,500 limit. We really encourage you to stay within the bounds, because if you go over the bounds, over the $2,500 or over the $7,500, over the money, then you're going to get kind of pushed to the side, and we'll look at it maybe when we get to the end. We really want to stay with the limits.
Last year we had some questionable things. People were saying, hey, wait a minute, this is $500 over. So we would push that one aside and look at other ones. So just try to stay within the bounds.
And we do not pay for transportation. We can give up to 10%, but that's all. Anything else there I need to say? No personnel cost or professional development, and only up to 10% on transportation. Sometimes people want to take their kids to Austin to see something. We're not going to pay to get them there. We may pay for your tickets in, but not to get them there. Okay, is that about it?
Yep.
You want to talk?
Sure. Put down all the information, the campuses, the number of students. This is all really easy to do. And then put down your name and the campus or the department. Are you all elementary, or are you secondary, or what? Everything? Elementary?
And I'm elementary, but
Across the district, okay.
I'm birth to 20.
Okay.
We have PCA.
Okay, all right. So if you're doing several campuses or a certain department, just put that down. Okay, next one. You're taking a picture of all this. Don't you have a copy of this?
I have a question. They work on
If they're working for someone else, yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if y'all are working like with different campuses, different people, if like you're working on this campus with this department and this person, and you're working on this campus with this department and this person, then to me, if you put those people down, they could go to the 7,500 limit. Yes, Sue? Okay, it would be separate. Okay, well then, if they're separate grants, then you still just have the 2,500. Okay.
So an example we had last year, we had a GT teacher that coordinated with the campus at the Bastrop Intermediate School and the Cedar Creek Intermediate School. So he wrote 2 separate grants and had a partner at each campus. And then he was able to do I think it was a robotics type grant that was funded. And so he was able to fulfill that grant. We funded it for the Bastrop Intermediate School and the Cedar Creek Intermediate School. So he wrote 2 separate grants, but like Sue said, we were able, it was basically copy and pasted, but it was for 2 different student bodies. He partnered up, so he did have a partner. So he had the $7,500 option. He didn't max out at that, but as long as you have a partner with your campus, a lot of times, like at CCE, for example, last year we had a grant funded that had to do with some technology with the library. She partnered with the computer teacher on that to help fulfill, to get that $7,500 need. The computer teacher uses it, but the librarian is the primary facilitator of it. But it impacted the entire campus.
Sounds good. Okay, let's go to the overview. Are y'all all good on this page? It's nothing but saying how many students it's going to affect and what your grant is and who your people are. Okay, on the next one, 100 words or less. And what you're doing is you're telling us what you're going to do, who's going to do it, why you're going to do it, why this is good, and it's what you would want us to hear if you were standing here telling us. That's what we want.
Yeah, what is the need? Why do you want to do what it is that you're doing? How is it going to help the kids? How is it, and that's the other thing. No matter what you do not say, I need, because I don't. It is more important that you address the need. My students need this to accomplish that. Don't ever say I need, because we kind of shake our heads and go, nah.
Any questions on that? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It really is. Okay, the next one down, the need, describe the student need. The first one was the overview. Now we're, what is the need? What do you want your students to be able to do that they can't do now? Just tell us where you think they are, where you need them to get to, and why they need to get there. Question? No? Questions? Y'all good? All right. Grant objectives. Okay, this is my big deal right here, these grant objectives. Hours. I'm sorry. Sorry. See, I used the wrong word. Did y'all hear that? I used the wrong word. Okay. When you write these objectives, they need to be measurable. They need to be something that you can actually assess your grant, be it a test at the end, be it what you've observed in the students. They could only read on this level, and you tested them, and now they're on this level. I love numerical data because I was a math teacher, but you need to actually be able to give us, I'm going to say numerical data. I mean, you need to say, at the beginning, only 50% of the kids could do this. Now, I have tested it this way, and now 80% of them can do this. Now, let's say that you started with 50% could do it, and now only 30% can do it. Don't feel like that's a problem. That just means that maybe what you tried didn't work. And we want to know that just as well as we want to know what works, because then we know to tell the next person, you know, that didn't really work. So it's not a pass or fail thing, but we want to know what the data shows. We want to know what your observations show.
And when Patsy and I first started working on the application, both of us, with the many years that we've taught, realize that when you do your objectives, we said 3, no more. When we first started reading grants, people were putting 12 and 15 objectives down. Unknowing, or unknowing, is that a word?
Unknowing sounds like a word to me.
That with every objective that you put down, you must you must explain or refer in the final report to that objective. If you say, I want my students to improve their reading scores by this percent, and then you go to the final report and you say, and their spelling improves so much, we're going to go, what? That was not one of your objectives. You have to align whatever your objective is with your final report, with your assessment.
Yeah, if you say that 85% of your children are going to be able to spell these words, then when you get over here to the final report, it's going to be, I gave them these words, I tested them, they started here, they ended here. You're going to specifically give the information that talks about that objective.
And in the very last part, it says students will be able to.
Yes, for your
We want to know,
objectives.
what are the students able to do?
Do y'all still have to put those on your boards? Student objectives, or student will, or yeah. Okay, same thing. Does anybody want to ask anything? Sue, you want to add anything? Sue is very right. Very important piece. Okay, description of activities and procedures. Now you're going to tell us how you're going to achieve those objectives. What are you going to do? What's your classroom going to look like while you're trying to achieve these objectives? What are your kids doing in there? What do you want to add to that?
Well, the activities are, that's what you have planned. But please, we have in the past seen cut and paste from the person who is trying to sell their product, where they cut and paste for what activities you can do. We really want to know what you're going to do.
Put it in your own words.
Yeah.
Evaluation strategy. This is where you're going to tell us how you're going to know that you reach your objectives, how you're going to know, how you're going to test the kids, what your evaluation is. If this grant is a renewal or has been implemented previously at another campus, include the results of that grant in this section. Yeah, I didn't think so. Describe how you evaluate the effectiveness of your grant. So, rubrics are good. Pre and post assessment is good. Student surveys are good. Interviews with the student, all these things are good things. You got another idea? I just read the ones there, but you might have your own.
Well, I don't know, I don't have any idea which direction you want to go with your grant, but the pre and post for me in English was a really easy one to do because I would give the kids a test, 10, 15, 20 questions, and say, okay, answer these questions. And they'd look at me, well, we don't know anything about that. No, wonderful, fail it. Because then after I did whatever I wanted them to do and I taught them whatever I wanted them to learn, I gave them the same test, and guess what? It was exactly what Patsy's been saying. There was data, there were numbers. I could say out of 150 students, because I was secondary, this many failed. On the post-assessment, this many. So you're providing the foundation with data, or the committee that's going to be reading it. So that's an easy one, but we have loved seeing the rubrics. We have loved seeing interviews and exit cards where
And
the
books.
where the
Some
kids
people
say-
had the kids make, books and things and attached them. I don't know if we can do that now. We're on the online thing, but maybe. Yeah, if it's digital, sure. Any questions? I know I was successful. Why? Why are you successful? Well, there you're going to talk about what your results showed, where they were at the beginning and where they ended up. Partners, anybody you work with, you can certainly put us down because you're working with us today, and anybody else you work with. If you have to go and talk to technology about something you're getting, then you can put them down. Whoever you're working with, if you're working with somebody else in your department, then put them down. If you're working with somebody in the community, put them down. Anybody you're working with, that's all that is. If sustainability, if funded and successful, okay. If your project is something that requires money the next year, and you know that you're going to need another grant to do it, then you should state that. If you think that the school will fund it for the whatever you need, like I think of sometimes like maybe it's an art thing, and they say, but the next year I think the school will buy our art supplies, you know, the consumables. Or if you think they won't, then you need to say, well, I'll need to get another grant, or I'll need to find money elsewhere. Just say if it's sustainable or not. If it doesn't need money the next year, then you say, no, it's sustainable. It doesn't need any more. Question? Okay.
Last year at this meeting, we handed out a scoring guide so that you all would know where we put our emphasis. And that would be helpful for you to see. Here, you want to do that? And I'll look.
Yeah. Be sure you put someone under the partners, by the way. Don't leave it blank. Put something there. Somebody. If it's Patsy Trigg, put Patsy Trigg. Okay. Yes. Yes. I don't think they have to be blooming, but they would need to be growing. They would be showing what your kids were doing with them. I don't think the blooming would be so important.
What would be most important? What is it you want the kids to learn about gardening? Because the final result is not necessarily what you want the kids to, the objective that you want. Do you want the kids to be able to understand the soil, or have you thought about that? Are you thinking? And remember, just 3 objectives: teaching them maybe how to amend the soil and how important water is to. These are just thoughts that are just coming to me.
You know what comes to my mind? He could take that soil and he could send it off to Texas A&M and get them to analyze it, and then he could say Texas A&M was a partner.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's coming to my mind.
No,
we just
go
kind
ahead.
of jumping back and forth.
On the partners, I know like they said, just really anybody, but obviously we definitely want it to be someone that you would get feedback from. We want, like, even your PTAs, your school librarian, your assistant principals. There's so many options, and that is something that scoring grants over the past few years that I've had to put zeros because it's critical to have a partner, even if it's just someone that you're doing the grant by yourself, but it's you're a science teacher and you are talking with another science teacher about how you can make it successful on your campus. And then partners in the community, it could be someone from BEF, it could be someone from a local business, it could be the Home Depot manager who helps you with the garden supplies. I mean, there's really a variety of types of partners, and I think people get caught up of like, oh, I don't know anyone to be a partner, but really there's a wide variety that you can utilize. So.
We're not talking there the partner like we were up earlier where you actually had somebody you're working with. We're just talking about whoever has added to giving you info, who you have touched while doing this?
Because when Sue comes back and we give you the scoring guide, you'll see, I think it's only 3 points, but when you're working on a 75-point thing, every point counts. So you want to do, yeah, you don't want to put a 0 there.
Okay, have you previously received funds, either yes or no, that's all? And the reason you're requesting funding? Hey, why are they requesting funding? I mean, what's that supposed to be? Just because you-
the principal doesn't, the
Yeah.
principal says, we're out of funds, we don't have any money, we can't, we can't supplement you. Use that one and I'll hand you.
The last one says technology requirements. If you have any technology requirements, it has to be approved by the technology department. But that's going to happen automatic, right, Amber? So is this just a yes or no? Is that all that is? Yeah, I was just thinking that myself. Look. Okay, on that technology, it says, does it have any technology requirements? I think if it's no, then I'd say no, and if it was yes, I'd probably say yes, and then I'd mention, is it a laptop, is it a Chromebook, is it, if it's software, I think I'd mention what it was, because what's going to happen is, after they close that January 31st thing, then the principal's going to approve it, and then it's probably going to go to technology, correct? And so they'll know what they're looking for. Sue? Wait, and then this is obvious. No budget, you're done. Got to have the budget, okay?
Oh, yeah, and
Budget.
budget's on here. too.
Okay, and is this different now? Tell me, remind me, something, when's this going to go in, and?
Done the grants before, you submitted them in the fall semester, and now we're hoping with this condensed process starting in January, what was happening is our budgets were, the budget quotes were changing by the time we actually got around to funding them. And so say, oh, I did a budget request and I had everything in my cart from Amazon or somewhere, and it was $320. Well, then 6 months later, when we came around to funding them, it was $360, or, example. So we're hoping now that will help condense the process. And like she said, with the budget, you can't just put $800 books. If you want specific books, you need to list, I want 10 copies of Little Women, I want 10 copies of this book, and itemize it as best as possible, because I can tell you from also when we select our grants, being able to see as much as possible in the budget also helps our decision-making process when we are like, this is going towards the top, or we're putting this one to the side till later to come back and look at because we don't know enough information about it. So, yeah.
Yes, perfect. Okay.
And just for the live streaming, I'll say that in case you can't hear it, we will be ordering the grants once they're selected in May to help get them in the classrooms or wherever they are needed by the start of the school year is our goal.
And the paper, the criteria for the grant approval, Sue just passed out to everyone. If you'll just take a look at it, you'll see how your grant is evaluated. The first one says the grant overview, and Patsy talked about that. Is it specifically stated and project addresses a significant need? Why do you need what you're ordering? And then we have 3, 2, 1. We look at it and decide which, there you go, whether it, which one of those we circle, and then we multiply it by 3. Okay, the next one are the grant objectives. Specific, measurable, as Patsy said, and attainable. We don't want you to put something that the kids no way can ever attain, and then that's multiplied by 4. So that's even more important. The activities, it's a 9. 3 is the highest. 3 times 3 is 9. But we'll look and see what is the one that we put the most points on. It is this one. The evaluation strategy clearly demonstrates how the objectives are met. Remember, I told you that at the very beginning. You have objectives. Make sure that when you do your evaluation, it goes back to those objectives, not something out in the black hole. And we have 3 times 5. It's 15 points. We look at that and go, whoa. Support of other people, that's a 9. The
That's where
project,
you want to be sure you have some people down there, because if you don't, then they're going to put a 0. And it's so easy to have, if, like I said, if it's Liz Waldrop or it's Patsy Trigg or it's Sue or it's Amber, I mean, at least have those down, and you will probably have talked to other people. If you talked or got information, put those down as people who helped you.
okay, and go ahead and do those.
The project is sustainable. You know, the big thing there is it's not worth a whole lot, but we just want to know, is it going to run out if you don't have more money, or is it going to keep on? And obviously, it's probably better if it's going to keep on and you're not going to need money every year, but still not a killer. Innovation, that's 6 points. I mean, 6 times.
That's the biggest one. That's
Yeah.
18. And if it's
And that's, no, you
supplemental-
go ahead.
Okay. If it's innovative, if you put down at the very top, please notice it says new proposal and innovative or supplemental. An innovative grant is the only one that can be worth 18 points. A supplemental can only be worth 12, all right? Because we want to look at innovative ideas as being much more important to student learning than books or chairs or things like that that will also help them. So remember that that is the big one.
Right. And then the budget has to be included.
All points. So now you know how they're.
Y'all want to say anything about this? Y'all have any questions? First of all, it's going to happen online, right? Oh, okay. So,
No, it would be horrible for us to ask you to do.
oh my gosh. Okay. We're going to show y'all some final reports, just so, and this is going to be online too. So this should be easy for you.
The ladies that you see here, all of us, we have been on the grant selection committee, and we have also been on the final reports committee. And we have been on the final reports committee. And when we go through these, I think these are from 2 years ago, we selected exemplary ones from the district that we thought were absolutely fantastic, and we handed them out so that everyone who came to the meetings would know exactly what we wanted. Now remember, the final report had 8 questions. We've reduced it to 5, and 3 of those questions are cut and paste. What were your objectives? Copy, paste. They're your objectives, and then respond to each one. If you look at the second page, and please don't look at my scribbling down at the bottom. Patsy was math, I was English, but we had to have data. And this gal You can see her name. She was at MENA. Did an absolutely fantastic job. She put what her objective was. Then she wrote it down. Objective 1, and how the kids did it. At the conclusion of this grant, 85% of my students will read nightly and reach their 100 weekly minutes. This proved to be true. Depending on the month, my reading log minutes ranged from, you could tell that she was actually keeping track of it. Objective 2, my students have increased reading by, and she wrote why and how. Look at objective 3. 85% of my students will read on district level. Currently 82, but that's okay.
Right.
On the reflection, I highlighted a couple things in yellow. You can't see the yellow. It showed such analysis, such correction in what she did wrong.
She's talking about where it says, but the fault of the parents. That was something she highlighted. I can see here and y'all can't. She's actually saying those parents who did not buy into the system were part of the reason that
Some of the kids failed.
right. And so see, that was like really, it wasn't just, okay, here it is, whatever. She actually thought it out and said, here's what happened. This is why that didn't work, and gave us really detail, not just it didn't work. And that's what we're looking for.
And she didn't have control over parents. She only had control of the children. We recognize that, but it was just wonderful. And then she said, if I were to have a goal like this again, I would give. So and I am amazed and, down at the bottom, impressed on how well they all have grown. I'm especially proud of the students that did achieve growth of 5 or more levels. I mean, there is such pride in her reflection. It was wonderful. Okay, do we have some others? And
Wait, I skipped a page.
this is another one, and I don't need to read to you every one of every one of these that we thought were so good. You can read those on your own.
It has to do with actually telling us what happened. Okay, they did reach the goal, they didn't reach the goal, and this is why, and this is what I saw, and this is what I would do different.
All right. We're pretty much finished with going over it, but I forgot your first name. Bill. Bill, you said that you want to do something with a garden. Okay, and what is it about a garden that you really want the kids to learn?
Oh, you teach at the boot camp. I think garden would be great, yeah. Marijuana, maybe. Oh, no. Just teasing. Oh, gosh, I'm live streaming. I know you're. Tomatoes. That's what I meant. Tomatoes. Only if you're in Oklahoma, the other, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Now, see. Okay, now you already mentioned 4 things right there. Those are wonderful ideas, but be more specific. What do you want them? Did you understand through what we were saying how to be very detailed so that it can be measured? Do you know what you were planning on? Or is this just, I'm sorry to, I don't mean to just focus on you, but I'm just trying to help you.
Right. Let me say one more thing about Bill, because it's already messed up. The reason I said that would be great is because for a lot of those kids, that's not something they get to do at home necessarily. That's why I say I think that would be a great project.
And I know we've had some garden type ones in the past, and the way the objectives were worded, it made it innovative in the fact that I tied it in with my curriculum, and we're studying about, the sun exposure, and then we went out to the garden and we got to see the effects of this. And I'm hoping with not just looking at the garden and a picture in a book and outside, we all know hands-on learning obviously impacts the kids. That's why we kind of do this BEF thing. But it was for some of these innovative grants. But when you're able to put some of those tangible things of, oh, we don't want a garden because it's cool and we want to go get fresh air, but then you pinpoint those objectives of tying it to curriculum. I can also tell you from being a grant reader, and you ladies can attest to this as well. A word we do not like to read as a grant reader is the STAR test. It kind of makes us cringe when, that is put down as an evaluation and say, oh, we want the STAR scores to increase. For us as the Education Foundation, our goal is not to increase STAR scores, it's to increase the excitement of learning for these students in the classrooms and innovate and offer things to you guys as BISD, as staff. We want excitement in the classroom, and we want there to be joy within the students correlating with that learning, right? So when we see, yes, it all, right? All that is so important. And I think when, as the Education Foundation, when we see that STAR word, we kind of cringe, because for us, the STAR scores come in the summertime. They're not going to be, teachers don't even know their own kids' STAR scores by the time we are doing final reports. We don't care about the STAR scores. That is not our goal. So I would highly recommend to your friends or anyone else that may be doing it to stay away. And yes.
I just want to add a political correct. We do care about the STAR test, but as for the purpose of these grants, we're looking at you meeting your objectives that you've defined.
Okay, we do care.
We know the STAR test is probably the most important thing that they hit y'all with, but when people use that as the data thing, first of all, most of the time they're not even in by the time they're doing the final report. And second, second,
Have you thought about what you might want to do?
did she get to finish? I
Oh,
interrupted
yes,
her.
yes, you did. Did you think about what direction you might want to go?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of innovative things that you could look at for the nurses across the district, because I know some of the things are probably outdated that you guys utilize. So anything that would help the kids and you guys.
I know Annette Harrison gets a lot of medical kind of supplies to use in the classroom. Being that she's asked a
Yeah, we're kind of together, so we kind of.
Oh, are you? You both have an idea of where you're going. And this has helped focus it more, has it?
More questions that I have is like about vendors.
Vendors do have to be BISD district approved vendors, because BISD does the approvals for that, and they're the ones, BEF, we cut them a check and they do the purchases.
But just because they're not on the approved list currently doesn't mean that you can't make the case for this being the only vendor that provides this particular thing.
So if I'm doing one with her, we're doing one together, and then there's another need that I'm looking at.
Yes, we have, absolutely. We have teachers that write multiple grants almost every year, and sometimes they correlate and sometimes they don't. They're just completely two different grants. One may be for some innovative technology in the class, and then something maybe a hands-on kit to go with their science curriculum. But they're just motivated teachers and they do multiple grants, and a lot of times, you know, they get them funded, yeah.
And please know that the foundation is here. If you are writing your grant and you go, oh man, I have no clue what to do now, call.
And this email right here, so you guys, the grants at BashDropEducationFoundation.org, That will go directly to Sue or I. We can answer questions. We want you to be successful in writing these grants. So any questions, small or big, we'd love to help you. And then, of course, we can also reach out via phone call once we get an email thread going with y'all as well. Yeah, right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to go through.
Want to hear it or not? Okay, so we're wanting to do like a core board for our kids on the playground. So it would probably need to be like 2 different vendors, I'm assuming, and then also like copyright. I am assuming the vendor would be able to tell me if it's copyrighted or not. That's my next one. How do we go through like those approvals? To increase communication on the playground. So like my students are nonverbal. So I want them to be able to make a communication exchange with their typically developing peers. That's okay. And I can data track that.
Data track that
I just
well.
don't know, like, as far as vendors go, like, I would use someone probably, like, local in the area to, like, build this, because it's something that would need to be built. But I'm assuming I would also, like, do I have to take into account, like, since it's going in a playground, like, do I have to pay, like, the staff, like, are those things I have to,
Installation
and,
For example, in the past, we've done, yeah, our wood shop does things as well. But for example, we've had a grant funded for a sound system, and of course, then BISD had to install that sound system. For the install, as far as services, I'm not sure.
But again, remember that part of the research that you're going to do to write this grant in order to be able to say this is how much it's going to cost is to call, first of all, make sure you've got your idea together, what exactly you need, what the technology is, and then there's the maintenance piece. I think using the local, this woodshop class would be a great working together kind of concept if that will work. They can make sure it's ADA compliant and all of that, which would be good for them. So, but
wood or metal or plastic.
yeah, the woodshop people should be able to give you some insight. If not, pretty much most of those things you can buy online.
Liz and Patsy, thank you so much. Thank you, guys.